sorry for my tardiness.
Well, it's forward to, let's get the meeting started. Let me introduce the members present. We have Mr. Andy Mendez with us, Mr. Ben Reed, Commissioner Gomez, myself, Daniel Tejada, Ray Labyrinth, City Manager Henry Turner, Mr. Lee Ricks. Absent is going to be Mr. Shoemaker and Diane Savage. Am I correct, Madam Secretary?
Yes, sir.
Madam Secretary, would you lead us in invocation, please?
Yes, please stand. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and the opportunity you've given us to serve you one more time. We ask you to be with us and guide us, O Lord, in this pandemic that we are going through. Be with us and guide us, O Lord, as we look to you for your wisdom. These and many things we pray in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
We've established a quorum. Call the meeting to order. I believe Mr. Lambert was not here for the last meeting to be sworn in as a board member.
Yes, sir. That
Was
is
that,
an item that we have on the agenda. We have Marcus Tejada here to swear him in, take the oath of office, and he needs to sign and say that he was not present at our first special meeting.
Okay.
So, Mr. Tejada.
Stand and raise your right hand. And repeat after me. In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas,
In the name and by the order of the state of Texas,
I,
I,
Ray Gunn,
Ray Labyrinth,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
execute the duties
execute the duties
of the office of River Bend Community Development Corporation
of the office of the Community Development Corporation
of the state of
of
Texas,
the state of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and to the best of my ability,
preserve and protect
preserve and protect
and defend the Constitution
and defend the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and laws of the United States,
and of this state, so help me God.
and of this state, so help me God.
And this is the statement of office. I,
Ray Labyrinth,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I have not directly,
that I have not directly,
indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed or promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promised any public office or employment for giving or withholding of a vote at the election at which I was elected, or as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation, whichever the case may be. So help me God.
So help me God.
And for the record, Mr. Chairman, we still have Ms. Diane Savage that needs to take the oath of office as well. That's why the agenda said 2 members.
Okay.
And then the next business will be for the meeting. You have a vacant position that you all table for the next one. CNA to appoint a vice chairman. The other item, sir, is actually under business 3A.
Okay, we have a position open for vice chair. We'll leave it open again for nominations.
I would like to follow what we kind of left off at the last meeting. We made the recommendation of Ray to be president, but he wasn't here, so I would like to nominate Ray Lambert if he'd be interested in doing that for us. For sure.
We have a second for that?
Second.
Mr. Reed and Commissioner Gomez. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Okay. Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations. Okay, Mrs. Turner, I believe you've done some, we asked you to look at some of the history behind the development and make a presentation. I believe everybody here is new to the board, so for most of the board members are new, I should say. If we can get a little bit of history so that we know what we're getting ourselves into.
Okay, this package is really kind of thick, and so I didn't want to scare anybody, but I just want to put everything there together. They normally won't be this large. But of course, you have your minutes from June 4th. I separated a little piece of paper, as you can see. You have a new member list, which I think everybody wanted to have, so that they can contact everybody's phone number and email address. If it doesn't work, please let me know, because sometimes things can get transposed. We also put on there Jeffrey Kuhn, your attorney for this. I included Mr. Allison as well as Mr. Kuhn, who should be trying to get over to us via Zoom. We're trying to get him on Zoom, but I don't know if he's going to make it. But those are just some other contacts that you may have. Now, the history of development, this is not necessarily my history. I believe that Paul Sacco gave this to me, I think at our last meeting that we had, provided some information to me. And this we have that spoke to it. I believe Mr. Rick said that the last meeting he could give a summary of what was going on.
Yeah, I
But we
have
have
some
that, and
short version if you want.
and then we have, the deed and the organization, how we started and those kind of things. I have here that I've included also the Texas law that says to do that. And what we have exhibit that we're talking about. We have a copy of the last chairman of the board, and he resigned. His resignation letter is in there. The last agenda meeting that they had. And then there was a financial summary that he provided to the board at that time, the former board, and then I just give you copies of financials. I have reached out to the bank, at SunTrust Bank. I spoke to Mr. Andy Eubanks, have provided him with the documentation that is necessary. And now that we have a vice chair, that according to the resolution, the chairman, vice chair, and treasurer are all on that signature for card for the bank, and that you would need to contact them in reference to making arrangements to get on that so that you all can decide what you want to do and how we're going to pay our outstanding bill. That's the end of my report, but it's here. I didn't know if somebody wants to speak to that.
One question, Madam Secretary. The previous members of the board, does their term just expire, or they replace?
Well, actually, each term is 2 years long. And some had expired, some had said that they weren't going to be able to represent their agency anymore, who they're representing. And so, but all those previous board members are no longer active, except for Ms. Diane and, of course, Commissioner Gomez. And he was reappointed as well for 2 years. We provided that to the attorney. Ms. Diane was appointed. I have who was representing whom, yourself, and Ben were appointed by the city. We have representative for Ken Pell's office was appointed via letter, as well as Senator Stephanie.
Do we have a synopsis of the financial standing of the development?
All I have is what you have in front of you. That's all I have at the moment. Because we don't have access to any financials until we're able to get on to the bank, and the bank can be able to alleviate whatever's happened and transpire since then. But I don't have any other financial documents than what you have in front of you.
So how did you get this information?
This information came from the former chairman that he provided to the city at a meeting that we had last. This was his financials that he gave.
Okay.
So I haven't been able to verify anything because we're not on the bank depository. So the bank can't tell us anything until we sign up, and then you can ask for whatever you like as a board. It's just that we don't have any authority at this moment.
But it only shows here till 2018, the statements of the bank.
And I was looking at it just right now, just some of the stuff I was as treasurer, it talks about like the asterisks where the deposits were directly from Riverbend account from the county. So I guess in the past, the county made the payments before now it goes to the city to the account to them, and then it says right here where the deposit from the fund issued to the city by the tax office in March of 2011. And then in 2011, tax receipts received. So, and there were multiple asterisks on some of these statements, so, you know, I just don't understand some of the past history. So our recommendation is treasury requirement forward was maybe looking at maybe a small audit of the past history, just to start as a clean slate. Because even as a previous, I was listed as a board member, but I was never sworn in or anything like that. So moving forward as treasurer, that would be one of my recommendations. Just kind of glancing over this, I had mentioned.
This is how I understand the funds move. The county tax collector writes several checks each year covering all of the collected taxes
Okay.
for each of the entities. The checks go to the city. The city has to transfer 100% of these funds to the tourist bank account at South Trust Bank, which that's the function that Paul Sack, as chairman, did prior and as signer on the account. When Paul resigned and no one else was appointed to the board until now, it was in limbo for that short period of months. So Paul submitted a final accounting that you have in front of you, but whatever has been collected since then, we need, as a board, to verify that it's been.
So that's what I'm trying to figure on some of the last checks and when they came from, because, you know, as treasurer, looking back on this, there has to be two people, anybody can deposit a check, or two signatures going out.
To go out.
So the previous person besides the chairman hasn't been a member of the city for a year plus, almost 2 years.
Yeah.
So how was he doing business when he wasn't affiliated with his role as the previous director of the EDC, how he was appointed to the city? So that, sorry for that. So that moving forward, that was just my recommendation as treasurer that I would like for us to look at. Just to start off on a clean slate.
Could you clarify that, Mr. Reed?
So I guess there was two people, like it was Paul and Tommy Baker, were on the signings where they could write checks. But not having the past history and knowing how it was, you know, I don't believe that if Tommy was not working for the city, not able to do some of this business, you know, how were some of these checks written and stuff and transferred over. And so moving forward as treasurer, if I'm gonna look over the financials, the one thing I did is my previous file with EDC as treasurer was making sure we had clean audit, good
Right.
numbers.
And I think, I understand, totally agree with the audits.
Yeah.
But I think once you have the bank account
Okay.
information,
Yeah, like I said,
And
I'm not a bank guy on that. So.
it's not very many transactions that happen in a year. In fact,
Yeah.
we used to have an annual meeting to review what happened. And the sole purpose of this board is to make sure the funds are collected, transferred to the bank account, and that the Bank New York Mellon is the fiduciary bank that disperses the funds to the bond.
So right now,
So,
the tax collector gave out a check to the city already.
yeah, my understanding is that they, every,
How did the checks go?
I don't know, it looked like from here that they were actually,
Twice a month?
monthly, but, I don't know the answer to that. I know the bond gets paid twice a year.
I'm sorry, the bond was what?
What?
Supposed to.
Supposed to be.
It's been once.
It's supposed to be a semi-annual bond.
Am I missing a sheet with the status of the bond payments?
No, we don't have.
We don't
We don't have that. That's some of the things, but like,
So we don't know what
make
we
sure,
stand.
like, where we're at, are we current on the bond payments? Are we behind? Are we, you know?
He can answer that.
Mr. Reed?
I'd be happy.
Yep.
Perfect. I'm Christopher Allison. I'm with M.E. Allison Company. And so in 2007, our firm sold $3.6 million in bonds for the project. Currently, the whole $3.6 million in principal is outstanding. There are also 7 semi-annual interest payments from September of 17 through March 1 of 2020 have not been paid.
Repeat that again, please.
7 and, I'm sorry, 6,
September 2017?
which is $837,000 through March 1 of 2020. And if we wanted to bring it current to date, we would accrue $83,700 in interest from March 1 through 6/18.
So it's over 900,000.
So today, you're at $920,700, plus the 3.6 million in bonds. Now,
So you're saying none of the 3.6 million are retired?
no, the first principal payments were to begin in 21, but since there is interest in arrears, that will continue to be paid out before principal starts getting paid down.
Why would you allow someone not to pay you from 2017 to 2020?
So the bonds were sold, there were non-rated bonds sold in $100,000 increments to high net worth individuals, sophisticated investors.
Can you clarify the investors, how many of them, because at one, we have a presentation, there are multiple of your families, right?
I believe there are 22 bondholders.
Within your
Right
personal
now.
family?
So my family just owns a small portion of the bonds. So when we were selling them to the public, to our clients,
Is there any kind of a call date? And what is the rate on the bond?
the rate on the bonds is 7.75%, and the bonds are callable now. They've been callable since at least 2017.
So why haven't we exercised that option?
So I mean, the district doesn't have funds to call it. There's behind in payments, until the tax value of River Bend grows, which it's seeming to about to, you're not going to be able to call the bonds. I would love it if you were able to find someone to refinance it, and call the bonds.
Because rates are like
Rates are cheaper now.
2.5.
No one's asked you to our lower rates.
So, I mean, basically investors are stuck with not having received interest payments for 3 years.
Okay.
And have a very possibility of not receiving principal unless the district grows.
What were your scheduled payments per year if it were current? What were you supposed to be getting paid?
The interest would be $279,000, and then in 21 you start having principal. So in 21 there was supposed to be $100,000 principal, 22 $100,000 principal, and then it increases going forward.
So when was this supposed to be paid off by? Do we have an end date? Like, so we know what the line is in the total is?
2031.
2031.
And so at the end of 2031, if the bondholders have not received payment, the bondholders would not have any recourse at that point. Second in line to the bondholders is the current developer, Richard Kuntz, who has invested money in infrastructure and presented to the city, what has been spent. So if bonds were paid off before 2031, the developer could have a claim.
Are there any other outstanding claims besides the developer? Or anybody that could?
I'm not aware of any.
To my knowledge, nobody but ourselves,
Okay.
the owners and the developer have
Do we know, like, do we know, like,
expenditures that are eligible for reimbursement under the.
do we know what those numbers are? Like, I mean, Does Richard have a number, I mean, do you have a number of like, on top of the 3.6, on top of the other million? Do we have a number of other claims that could be claimed against it? Like, is it 500,000? Couple hundred thousand?
I'd have to get you exact numbers, but it's in excess of 2 million and under 2.5 million.
So on top of this interest payments and the 3.6, we have another $2 million in claims that could be called.
Yeah,
if we're,
what that represents is the infrastructure that
Yes.
was put in to complete the legend section, which is the one that's almost sold out, and then the infrastructure to complete the section that D.R. Horton is just
okay.
purchasing.
Your bondholders that have not been paid, they're almost $1 million short. They haven't filed any claims, no notices, no anything. And they're content with not being paid.
They don't have any collateral the way that,
I mean, basically, the only claim that a bondholder can go after is the tax revenue collected by the district. So
Where I'm going with this is there any litigation out there that we don't know about?
there's no limit.
That's the point.
when the Hayden family took over the development, there was not enough tax revenue to even pay the interest on the bonds. And we started developing, building houses, and finishing infrastructure. And it's taken to this point to get to the point where it looks like there's enough revenue, tax revenue coming in to pay the interest, and the arrears appear that they will be paid by tax revenue. But it's one of those things that it's nothing but a projection, because you have to have more tax value, more houses built in there for the thing to ever pay out. And that's the risk
that we have to get to.
That's the risk the bond owners took in their investment. But this TERS is created by the Texas State Legislature, and there's no way to change the way it works. It's going to work exactly the way the agreement was put together, and the only way for the bonds to be retired through tax payments was when there's enough tax payments coming in to.
But when you're adding on 7.75%, are the bondholders, are they interested in perhaps doing some kind of a discount or something on this old interest and trying to get it in line where they can be brought up current, because it's an absorbent rate?
Yeah, it's a high rate. I don't have anything to do with the bondholders. The bondholders at this point have no incentive to renegotiate the rate because they've got their claim to the future tax.
Well, I understand
So
that,
we'd have to go.
not just negotiate the rate, but also the past rate.
We'd have to go outside and sell new bonds and pay those off. And I don't know what the prospects of doing that are until these bonds are caught up. I'm not an expert in that. I've been told that would be tough to sell when we look.
That's why I thought like we could bring some experts to give us some opinions on, like Andy, I don't even know what a call date is until you said it right now. So
I know quite a bit, but not, that's one step above my pay grade there.
Yeah.
But I'm a numbers guy, and I look at it, and 7.75, I look at bonds daily, it's going for a third of that. So can you shift monies to satisfy that, and save you're paying a third versus, you look at both sides and you weigh it out.
Let me mention too, just for kind of a summary of the TERS itself, it has that 30-year duration because Mr. Allison got it extended 10 years by getting all of his bondholders to agree, and got the reimbursement period extended, it was at $18.5 million TERS, and 3.6 came out of the first bond issue. So that's how much future development could be done that would be eligible for reimbursement under this. It has to happen in that window of that time period that expires in 31.
Well, if we can't cover the 3.6, how are we gonna cover the 8?
No, there's no.
There's no other bonds. The whole TERS was written for 18.5 million of development expenses for the entire 400.
So we're paying the 775 on what number?
3.6.
On 3.6.
279,000. So I think the important thing is in 2031, when that year expires, all the taxes that are from the district, if bonds have not been paid off, or if the bonds have been paid off, and the developers will then partially reimbursed for infrastructure, all the future taxes then flow through to the city, the hospital district, the county, all the participating entities, and then everyone's back on their normal schedule, even if bonds have not been paid off.
Ben, what do you think this is bringing in a year from all these pile of numbers?
Well, if I may, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Vice Chairman, one of the questions that there was a system that was done, and I inherited the system where they would come and, I think it was decided to bring the checks over, and we would sign them, and he would deposit it, and us would say, no, we can't do that, because the checks are actually written out to the city of Floresville. And so, then what we started doing was taking the checks, depositing the checks, and reissuing the checks to Riverbend in their name, actually in the exact same dollar amount that we put in, it's just an in and out. When we started doing the in and out, it kind of, rather than depositing directly, it just threw a red flag to our auditors, where the auditors were saying that they needed to understand revenue, and they started asking questions about the numbers, and I'm like, it's just an in and out, it's not our bond. So they were saying, but it's recorded, and it looks like it's a city of Floresville bond, and it's still there. And so when they started asking questions about, let's go back and check it, I've had several finance directors, and I'm on my new one today, she's only a week old, so I'm not letting her touch this yet, that we need to be able to look at doing that. So I would have to say, I have no idea historically where it is, what we have, what we've done. I've also switched several different attorneys during this process. At one time, Lou was there. So we need to be able to find out where we are, because I can't give you the answer. I wish I could. There's some that was in our system, some that are not into our system. And again, because we're not authority, I haven't seen anything or been able to show anybody anything, because I don't have a complete record. I think they had the same thing, so they will probably have a complete record of how it's done and electronically passed on and those kind of things. But at the moment, I don't have a clear handle on the finances or the infamous checkbook.
So right now, you don't have no checks coming in from the tax office since January?
Correct. I have not received any check coming over to February.
What was the bond counsel on this?
Norton Rose Fulbright.
Specifically?
So it was formerly Jim Plummer, who's left Norton Rose, and now it's Jeff Kuhn.
Yes, I think Mr. Plummer's been gone for 2 years. So Jeff is aware and following his lead. That's the attorney. When I speak to the attorney, that's what I'm working with. As soon as everyone has been able to get onto the account, we have our 3 gentlemen now to get onto that account, then we'll be able to ask for history of where we were, the checks and those kind of things. We even will have the authority to go to the county and say, give the record as well. But at this moment,
Yeah, I just want to be real clear that, when I step into this, we're dealing with taxpayer dollars. So before we move forward, and I want to move forward, because I want to get this going, I really want to have a clear picture to our constituents that pay this money. I mean, I personally pay it, so if I were to hear this or watch this video, I would want to exactly know. So before we move forward, that was my recommendation. I want to go back to that whether it's an auditor, a separate financial advisor, someone that can clearly be an expert, because Andy said this is above his pay grade. I would make a strong stance on that moving forward as a board, I would like to make that, whether that a motion, a future agenda item, that we do that to have a clearer picture just to the citizens that live out there and pay those tax dollars. And I don't think if you ask any citizen out there, they wouldn't disagree with that.
Yeah, we'll say this,
Andy's doing that.
rates are cheap, but bonds are also rated. And if your financials aren't that hot, you're not gonna get them to buy unless you pay.
No.
So if we're thinking that, okay, we could shift to like 2.5, 2.75, that's probably not gonna be the case.
No.
Based on the financials, it would be considered a high-risk bond.
No,
So
I mean,
you
I
have to
just want
pay
to have a clear
accordingly.
picture.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Allison, do you have anything further to say? Not to look at the next item. Thank you, sir. Presentation on Southwest Bank, Ms. Turner.
Yes, so again, Mr. Andrew Eubanks from Southwest Bank has received all the proper documentation and has verified that he has all the proper documentation for the treasurer, the vice chair, and the chair to sign so that we can get authority to ask those questions. And to what you're saying, board member, is that what we need to make sure is that we have financials. I don't have any financials at all. And so we need to be able to have someone to prepare the financials, financial history, so that you can make an informed decision as to whatever you want to do with your bonds and what the current situation is, because I cannot even in the city auditor. And so I will ask for those, once the three gentlemen are able to sign and get authority on that account. And then you can direct, because there is an outstanding payment we have not made. Recently, the money that's there, it was deposited, but there's been no dispensing of funds since the resignation of the former chairman.
So the money's still there in the bank?
It's just there in the bank. I can't verify that, but I don't know who had authority to take anything out of it. Helen spent some time, I believe, with Mr. Allison on the phone, going back and forth about payments and transferring the money, and we cannot transfer money until there's someone, because everybody on that board actually dissipated, and so they're no longer able to sign. I believe the signatures on the card, I know two of them, I don't know who the third one, Mr. Sack was one, and Tommy Baker was the other. I'm not quite sure who the third signer of that account would be. Can you tell me, Mr. Sack, who the third person was? You know,
Who was the third person?
the third person who signed the account?
Well, we had some members of the community.
No, sir, I mean, who was actually a signature for the account? So yourself as chairman, Mr. Baker was treasurer, I believe, at the time. Was there a third signer or just the two?
There were two different third signers that we had used from time to time.
Okay.
Who were that?
Who were they?
I'm not aware of it.
Bill Martin. Well, Bill Martin, who's a resident of Riverbend, had volunteered to be a signer.
Okay, so
And
you're
we
vice-
used him for about 2 or 3 years.
So he was vice chairman, because according to, you're supposed to be vice
He was on the
treasurer.
board.
You just can't have volunteers.
He wasn't a
No, he
board,
was
he was a
on the
volunteer.
He wasn't a,
He was on the board back.
Okay, so that's what we have, so like I said, I don't know. And so once you three gentlemen are able to get onto the account, we can have accounting, and then as secretary, I'll call myself staff, give you direction as to if you want somebody to look at your books, or can they look at your books, to come up with the financials, because we don't know what they are, and you may be able to make.
Well, and you have to pay to get rated. Sometimes people issue bonds with no rating just to save on the expense of being rated.
Yeah, and so, Jeff Coots from his company, Jeffrey, the attorney, is also the city's bond attorney that we've used on several different times for USDA, as well as our tax bonds. Also the company, the bond counsel for Phelps, is that correct? Right, and so we can ask his direction as to how we would want to proceed on getting some kind of financial, or want to do that, to give us some kind of where we are financially, and I will express to him that you all want a financial analysis of what it is, a professional one, because I don't have it.
It looks like for the next few meetings, we might be discussing the financial reports of the development. Also, we might want to discuss the status of the financial advisor. Do they have a financial advisor? Do we have a
I
financial
am not
advisor?
aware of financial advisors for the Riverman.
Those might be things to consider for future meetings. Anything else to report on the South Trust Bank?
Other than they need to have your identification if you decide. He said he will be contacting you, it is by appointment, so you need to either contact him or he'll contact you, because the bank lobby is not open to the public.
Okay. Let's go on to new business. Board, we have the minutes right here in our packet. If we could go over the minutes real quick and approve as presented or make any corrections that you see fit. If there are no corrections, let's entertain a motion to approve as presented.
I'll make a motion.
So moved by Commissioner Gomez,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Reed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
I'm sorry. I'm the Mr. Being Secretary. Who made that motion?
I
Mr.
did.
Gomez.
Okay.
Mr. Reed, second.
Thank you, sorry. Okay. The other, item that you have, sir, I think for direction, you can't make a payment, but I didn't know if you wanted to put that or discuss it, so table that to your next meeting. Did
On
you-
item B?
Yes, sir, you need to take an action if you're going to make a payment.
Oh, okay. We can't have the authority at this point, do we?
You have it, you just haven't executed it as of yet.
I'm not, I guess I would want to make the motion since I'm a signer, maybe from a non-signer, I'll make the motion, at least we meet with the bank officials.
So we table this item for now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I need that motion, sir.
I make a motion to table it.
Motion by Mr. Lambert to table item 3B.
Until we get on the account, so.
Acceptable.
And then
The
the
count
second.
is formalized.
Yeah, one month in the
I
bank.
want to say something.
Yes, sir. Before you
Do
take.
you mind if I just ask a question or make maybe a statement?
Please, go ahead.
So, one of the purpose of TERS district is to transfer funds that they have available for payment of the bonds. Bank of New York is the bond trustee. There are funds available to make a whole year of interest payments. I really let it slide last meeting that we did not have a vice chairman. So, but I think this point, when you have 3 signers, we know the bonds are valid. You can certainly speak to the bond attorney, Jeff Kuhn. I think it's appropriate for the TERS district to make the payment to Bank of New York. And
We don't even know what's in the bank.
if there's funds in the bank available to pay it, Helen Martinez, when she was financial advisor, the finance director, told me there was more than a year worth of payments at South Trust Bank.
But I think we need to see that. And sure, you can't expect us to transfer money.
Yeah, I can't.
We don't even know where it came from or what the status is.
The money's pledged to the bonds,
Yeah.
but
We just want to follow new protocol.
But there's no accounting of it. I mean, nobody knows why.
Helen's not here to ask. I would ask her.
Nobody's trying to hold your money or drag payments out. That's not the point. Just trying to get some
I
clarity.
want to get it paid as soon as possible. I don't want to be the one to hold anything up. I want to do what our job is, but I also want to know what I'm doing before I do it. So asking me to make a motion without being on the account yet.
And we can have a special meeting after we see what's there and what's going on. If there's some kind of
Hard to
accountability
ask.
for it.
Okay.
Now we have a full board, we can do that. And that's what we're gonna do. I think we're waiting for the bank to call us, because it's by schedule
We can
only.
call in tomorrow.
And I'll reach out to Andy, the president, tomorrow to try to schedule my appointment. I'm not gonna try to hold it up one bit, so I'll reach out first thing tomorrow.
How's that one?
Here right now, I got a cell phone.
Could you repeat your motion, Mr. Lambert?
Make a motion to table item 3B, so after we have a meeting with the banks, and get an accounting of the money in the account, and where we can, or actually officially authorize to sign with the account.
Madam Secretary, you have?
Yes, sir.
Did we have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Gomez, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let's set up the next meeting. And Mrs. Turner, you have some items for the next agenda already?
Well, for my notes, it's going to be this item that was tabled, item 3B, but as well as a financial overview. We can get a financial overview of the bonds. That's what you would like to have. And then because we are still missing a member, and I'll have to try again to get hold to Ms. Savage, is to have a swearing in. Gentlemen, if I can remind you that if you have not already done so, can you please forward to me your open meeting act certificate? I have yours, Mr. Lambert, on file, yours, Mr. Tahir, on file. I just need a copy of yours, Mr. Gomez. That's one of the requirements. Mr. Reed, I think you have yours as well as mine on file. And you try to download yours. Did you have a chance, Mr. Rich? Okay. So then you just need to have that at the next meeting. You can just do that 45 minutes so that I can have it and I can forward it on to the attorney.
So our first order of business would be the bond counsel
I'll see if I can get a report
and
from
the
Mr.
bank statements.
And the bank statements, yes, sir. Is that what you want to have?
Once we go in the account, we can request it on.
And you mentioned checks that were written.
I just, of a history of it, just to
Yeah,
verify,
history checks.
How they, like Mr. Turner was saying, some come from the city, some come from the tax office with these asterisks on here, just to have a record of where they're coming, and so we can set the protocol moving forward, so the city doesn't get anything on their audit as an in and out.
Yes, my auditor said he could not speak, he's actually here in the building, but he couldn't speak to this because he didn't have a clear picture.
Okay, but I think you referred to a check or checks that were written without,
Oh, yeah, just to make sure, like, who was signing the checks, too, make sure they were valid people.
Where are the bank statements at, by chance?
I don't have anything saying.
okay, are we good for 2 weeks? 2 more weeks?
2 weeks.
So how do we get those other than get the bank refused?
The bank will have to.
Mr. Allison, 2 weeks is good?
Is it possible to meet on a day other than Thursday? Is that what-
Let's see, gentlemen, we're looking at the month of July, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I got the month. I heard another date other than Thursday. Is there a preference for a day?
Tuesday?
I don't know, the 14th.
Tuesday or Wednesday or any other day, but Thursday afternoon, I just have a conflict then.
Every Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay, so the 14th, looks like your meeting day, 14th?
What day is that?
That's a Tuesday.
Tuesday's
Tuesdays work better for me.
I'm sorry?
Tuesdays are better for me.
Okay, so Tuesday, and then.
Either the 7th or 14th.
You want the, are we looking for the 7th or 14th, gentlemen? Yeah.
2 weeks is the 7th, 14th.
Seventh would be too close to the fourth,
Yeah,
probably.
14th is fine.
Okay, 14th. Yes, and can we please clarify the time? It was my mistake. I didn't let you know that the chairman had.
Oh, yeah, I thought Albert said 3.
3?
It was
Still what?
3.
He said-
I came in at 2, I said, and nobody was.
Always early.
Okay, so what is the standard time, and I'll make sure that I remind anybody.
3:30?
3:30 is better?
3:30 is fine.
Okay, so we'll do it 3:30, and so I have
Mr.
July,
Hicks, 3:30?
Yeah.
so I have Tuesday, July 14th, at 3:30. Here at City Hall, we agreed to meet here at the location, correct?
Okay.
Yeah, I like the thing.
Thank you.
All right, great discussion. There's no further business. Any comments, any questions?
I still have one question though, under there. Between now and then, am I understanding that the
3.
3 will go to
Yes.
the bank, fill out the
Yes.
paperwork, be prepared
We'll have
to
it
sign,
done.
and by then we'll verify the amounts, and so that we can
We'll get you
authorize
that
the
check.
payment.
Yes.
That's great.
That's
That's our,
Would you say it's the whole year? You
that's
now
our
look
sole
at-
function, is to make sure they're right
Uh-huh.
and then pay them.
Yeah.
And I would love to know they're right and get paid.
That's good.
I think that's the best way to explain it. All we're trying to do is make sure that everything's right, that the funds are there, and pay it.
Okay.
Instead of having to go back in archives, do you have any idea where the statements might be from the previous months, previous years?
I don't know. Mr. Sapp, do you?
We've, every time we have received money, every year since 2004, it's in a report, part of it's in that packet that you have. Every time we received money, it was all documented, how much money from each taxing entity. And then when a certain amount of money was sufficient, like it is now, it's probably over $350,000 in the bank now, because the last check I turned over in January was over $300,000. And that was put in the bank, and Helen Martinez deposited on January 19th. And there was no reason why, but we didn't have any signers on the account to forward.
It wasn't Helen's fault, she's on the account.
Okay, so what happens
She
is,
cut the check.
the check comes here, and then she dispenses the check for it, so they did issue a check for that amount, correct?
You issued a check for that exact amount to the bank.
If the city's not holding any of this real estate
Oh, yeah.
money. Okay, but I thought your question, Mr. Chairman, I may have misunderstood, you said copies of statements.
Actual bank statements.
So I don't have it, I don't have your bank statements, do you have bank statements?
Bank statements.
Self-trust.
Yes, I have bank statements.
I don't have any bank statements, I thought that was your question.
You couldn't get those?
We can request it.
You can request from the bank, but like I said, I know officially.
Yeah, you're going back to 20, you're going back in time.
Okay, there's be no further business, meeting's adjourned at 4:49.